Hey there, folks. Welcome to another episode of A Quick Note. Today, we're diving into the captivating story of the Eiffel Tower, from its unexpected beginnings to becoming an icon of innovation and culture. If you enjoy fascinating tales and iconic landmarks, you're in the right place. Before we start, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to A Quick Note for more quick dives into intriguing topics. Let's get started. The Eiffel Tower is like the superstar of structures in France, and maybe even in all of Europe. Can you believe it was never meant to stick around forever? It was supposed to be a temporary thing. But guess what? It's still here, and that's because the people who made it were open to trying out new technology. They were like, hey, let's give this a shot. And that's how this iconic tower ended up being built in the first place. Over 200 million folks have checked it out, making it a real hotspot. Cool, huh? Back in 1889, France threw a big party called the Universal Exhibition. It was like a celebration of all the cool stuff happening in the world, and it marked 100 years since the French Revolution. The French government wanted something awesome at the entrance, like a wow factor. So, they had a contest to design an iron tower. Imagine 107 people trying to come up with the best idea. Guess who won? It was Gustave Eiffel, a smart engineer, along with his buddies architect Stephen Sylvester, and engineers Maurice Coquelin and Émile Naguire. They were all about trying new things and making a bold statement for France. And that's how the Eiffel Tower came to life, a symbol of innovation and French pride. Eiffel had this crazy idea for a tower that had never been done before. It would soar up to 300 meters, making it the tallest man-made thing on the planet back then. And get this, it was going to be made of a special kind of iron called wrought iron, a material that became a big deal during the Industrial Revolution. Now, what's cool is that the design and the iron framework made the tower look kind of like a giant, elegant mesh. It wasn't a solid block, but it was still super strong. They started building it on January 26, 1887, and it went up pretty fast, didn't cost a ton, and they didn't need a huge crew. Imagine this, 18,038 pieces and more than 2 million rivets later, and voila! The Eiffel Tower was born. Alright, so the Eiffel Tower stands on these 4 hefty pillars, creating a big square that's 125 meters on each side. These pillars then come together and shoot up, forming the main tower in the center. It's kind of like a giant geometric puzzle. Now, here's the cool part, inside those curved pillars, they installed elevators. And guess what? Back then, elevators were a pretty new thing. They had to be super careful in designing them to fit the curves just right. As you go up the tower, there are these awesome viewing platforms at different levels. Yup. You can actually travel all the way to the tippy top. Some of those graceful curves you see are there just for looks, like a touch of art in the structure. Oh, and about the color? They give the tower a fresh coat of paint regularly to keep it looking sharp. It's like a style makeover for one of the most iconic structures out there. Nowadays, the Eiffel Tower is seen as a major deal in the history of design and construction. It's like a masterpiece from back in the day and marked the beginning of a whole new way of building things. But, believe it or not, when they were building it, not everyone was a fan. Some folks weren't too happy about having this giant structure, especially because they thought it would mess up the beauty of the Champ de Mars. Back then, there was quite a bit of opposition and skepticism. Some people were downright horrified at the idea of such a massive thing changing the look of their favorite spot. Little did they know, the Eiffel Tower would become one of the coolest landmarks in the world. Funny how things turn out, right? It's February 14, 1887, and they're busy building the Eiffel Tower. But hold on, there's a twist. Some big shots from the arts and letters scene got all riled up and issued a complaint. They weren't too thrilled about the tower messing with their vibe. On top of that, there were skeptics everywhere. People were like, this is a whole new way of doing things. Is it even gonna work? Gustave Eiffel, the mastermind behind it all, had to do some serious convincing. It was like a battle of ideas. But guess what? Eiffel held his ground and won the fight. The tower got the green light. Now, the big question was whether this daring structure would actually function as planned. Talk about suspense. Fast forward to March 31, 1889, Eiffel himself climbed all the way to the tippy top of the tower. And you know what he did? He proudly waved the French flag, officially opening the structure. It was like a grand ceremony, and some important folks joined him up there. Imagine the view. For quite a while, the Eiffel Tower wore the crown as the tallest building on the planet until the Chrysler Building in New York stole the spotlight in 1929. But, hey, it's still the tallest thing around in Paris. The whole building and planning thing turned out to be a massive success. People were seriously impressed by the tower. It's like the Eiffel Tower stepped onto the scene and said, "Check me out, I'm here to stay." Quite the grand entrance, don't you think? So, here's the kicker: when they first made the Eiffel Tower, the plan was for it to stick around for just 20 years. Well, guess what? It's been standing tall for over a century. How did that happen? Well, Gustave Eiffel, the mastermind, was all about trying out new things. He used the tower as a playground for experiments and innovations in wireless telegraphy. Basically, they attached antennas to it. There was a time when they thought, okay, let's take this giant thing down. But, hold on. The tower started beaming out signals, and suddenly, everyone was like, no way, let's keep it. Fast forward to 2005, and the tradition continued. Paris' first digital TV signals were broadcast right from the Eiffel Tower. It's like this iconic structure just keeps reinventing itself, proving that it's not going anywhere anytime soon. But here's the real twist: even though the Eiffel Tower was initially meant to be temporary, it ended up leaving a huge mark on our culture. At first, it stood as a symbol of all things modern and innovative. Then, it became this powerful symbol not just of Paris, but of all France. Think about it, the tower is everywhere in the media. It's practically impossible to imagine someone saying, "Let's tear down the Eiffel Tower." It's become one of the most famous structures on the planet, a go-to landmark for movies and TV. It's like a global superstar that just keeps stealing the show. Well, that wraps up our quick journey into the history of the Eiffel Tower. If you found this as intriguing as we did, give us a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe to A Quick Note for more bite-sized explorations into the world's most captivating stories. Thanks for joining us today. Until next time, stay curious.